All right, all right. Well, Chris, thanks for joining me. We're joining to kind of talk about a deal that we got across the line with one of our hedge funds here. First of all, let's kind of how did we connect? If we run that back, how did we connect?
Hey everybody, I'm Chris Geddes. Happy to be here today. I'm one of the owners of Pine to Palm Homes, a nationwide
Yeah.
wholesale business. Yeah, James, we actually like so many things that just all happened in the DMs. I saw you make a post about that hedge funds were buying again, and we have a pretty talented team, and we wanted to add that to our repertoire in 2026. So I think I sent you a message and mentioned a mutual friend, and then we ended up here doing a deal together.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Again, my name is James Mossholder. I run a wholesale company called Trent REI Group. I connect with a lot of groups like Chris's. Chris, obviously you have a pretty high level wholesale operation going. And so us connecting is definitely some good synergy and we definitely had a middleman, so that helps. Obviously we both have a lot of people reaching out to us, and so being able to have someone in the middle that can connect us and say, hey, you guys should probably work together. Obviously at this point was a good thing. So
Yeah.
great that I've been able to work with you and your team, right? You have Nate there that I work with a lot. He's I believe your disposition manager.
Correct. Yep.
Great guy, easy to communicate with. And so, we've over the last couple of months or so, your team has been working, I think, a lot of on-market leads, right?
Yeah.
And also you guys run a lot of off-market leads. And so, we've been working both sides of that. We've had some good opportunities. I know sometimes when you work these on-market leads, it's hard to get a dollar off the asking price, right? Even if we know we're getting the best offers, a lot of these sellers will see, they're only as strong as the seller is willing to look at them. So. Um, we finally did connect on the deal, which actually this deal, has some backstory to it. And let me start, maybe I'll start with my backstory and then we can continue with your story here.
Yep.
This is actually a deal that came out of Texas. And it, what was the address? Let me look up the address real quick.
Think it's Ray Street. That's what I call
Yes.
it.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know
seven.
if the city, I'm not so sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun one to have this first one come together and work so well and and also have, a little bit of history with it.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of it sometimes just comes through a lot of follow up with agents. And if I remember right, this deal had actually been on market for a good amount of time, right?
Yeah, I think it was kind of one of these quintessential opportunities that you think have a good chance. I think it was on market for at least 100 plus days, if not 180. So several months on market. And
Hmm.
these sellers were just not getting the offers they wanted. And I think, time finally played in our favor and they were really ready to move forward and the motivation set in.
Yeah, and now that I remember, it was in Alvarado, Texas. I hope I'm saying that right. Alvarado, Texas.
Yep.
Where there's not really strong comps. You have a neighborhood. I believe this sat in a neighborhood where you have a couple different price points,
Yep.
right? So it's sometimes if and I don't want to say this, I'm just going to put it out there, but when you have a neighborhood that has a lot of different price points, a lot of different comps, you might have one comp, you might not have a comp, so you're kind of shooting in dark sometimes. And agents can sometimes over ask, right? They can ask too much, and so when they do that, a property will just sit on market for a long time as an overpriced listing. And I think that's kind of what happened here, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the agent and the seller maybe got a little bit too ambitious, and
Hmm.
then after
Hmm.
30 days, 60 days of no offers, then in this market you kind of just sit unless you
Yeah,
are do some dramatic things to try to improve your the desirability of your property.
definitely. And some of these neighborhoods sometimes just can't, right? It's like that there's a top end to every neighborhood. And when you're not really experienced with that specific neighborhood, you can very easily overshoot that top end.
Yep.
And especially with the house, I believe this house, was outdated, right? It wasn't falling down, but it needed a full cosmetic update. And if I remember right, it also needed a new HVAC and it needed some roof work,
Yeah.
right?
It,
So
it,
those
it,
are a couple of big ticket items
you
with
know, it's one of those houses, houses they say it's got good bones, right?
yeah.
It's got good bones, but it definitely needs some things to make it ready to go.
Yeah, yeah, and the seller says, yeah, it's been updated. Well, it was built in what I think it was built in the 70s, late 70s, and it's like, okay, well, what does updated mean, right?
Yep.
Because that can mean it was updated in the 90s, right? And so for someone in our shoes, we know that, well, that probably needs another refresh, and
Yep.
that was the case here, right? And so um, when I first saw this property, it was listed well above actual ARV, right? And so that was some opportunity there. And to give a little background, I actually had this one under contract,
Oh, that's funny to find out. Yeah.
right? And that caused a little bit of like, wait, what's going on here? After I had it under contract, I had it inspected by the fund. Some things popped up, and I had to go try to get a reduction from the seller and the agent, and you know they they just weren't ready to pull the trigger at that time. I definitely we had a great offer from the fund, especially with everything that came back. There also needed, if I remember right, some concrete work, which obviously that's not cheap. Um, and so, I had to get out of contract because just couldn't make the deal work for the seller. They just weren't ready to take a little bit of a hit. Although I knew they weren't going to get anything, better than my offer, right? It just wasn't out there for them. And at this point, the property was probably on market about 100 days, if not a little bit more. And so then your team stepped in,
Yeah.
right? And some great things I think happened from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what we kind of specialize in. It was funny, we had no idea that James had the property under contract at one
Mhm.
point. But we're a nationwide wholesale business, and so we can do volume. We send out lots of LOIs, lots of offers, and I believe this one came through. Actually, even some of our network. We shared the kind of the buy box that James does, which is awesome for anyone who's looking at in this. Having
Mhm.
a zip code by zip code buy box, very
Mhm.
specific. It allows you to tailor that marketing, and it gave us that opportunity to come in. And it's, I think, in the world of real estate and wholesaling, sometimes if you're first, it's not necessarily the best option.
Mhm.
James did everything he could to get them down. And, we came not much, off his mark. I think we were, a couple $1,000s more than he had offered at that time. And it just comes down to time. I think the sellers realized they didn't have many other options. And then we were able to go under contract with terms that, made it a little bit easier. James already knew everything about the house, and he knew he had a kind of a standing offer, which is
Mhm.
cool about working with James and his relationships with these hedge funds. It was awesome for our team to see. You have this buyer that is ready to go, which is the
Mhm.
dream scenario for most people in real estate and wholesalers.
Mhm.
It was really just up to us as the marketer, the salesperson, to close them and be ready to go. So, yeah, a little bit back and forth. We came really within the range that James had already had, and it made it easy for us to close this out and have the seller move on into the next thing and honestly sell for probably a fairer price than your
Mhm.
average retail buyer probably would have paid realistically.
Mhm.
And which is the benefits of working with some of these hedge funds. They will pay a bit of a premium, I think, compared to some other people.
Yeah.
And an agent got paid on a deal that they might have gotten fired for otherwise. And, our team made a little bit of money and everyone was happy.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, that's a great win, I think, all the way around. And you're right that the agent, probably would have lost the listing.
Yep.
And obviously now that's not good for the seller either, right? The seller
Nope.
wants the house to sell. They had already vacated the property. So now they're just paying for this property that's just sitting there while they're also paying for their new location. And I think a big point that you made was that a retail buyer would not have been able to even pay this, right? Because they would have been stepping into a house that they would have had to put a whole bunch of money into, replacing the roof or at least a good amount of roof work and replacing an HVAC. And beyond that point, it probably wouldn't even been able to get a FHA loan on it, any type of conventional loan, because you got to do that work before you can even step into the house. And so then the seller is put in a position, well, do I do that work for the new buyer, right? Or it's like, hey, get a great price for your house. Wash your hands clean, step away, everything's done. Real estate agent was happy. They were working the deal. They did their best, obviously, and we did the best for them. And I know your team came in and offered a good price to them. And you're right, the fund had already inspected the property. We knew where we needed to get it at, and you guys got it done, right? You guys got the contract signed. Had step came my way with the right price, and it was good to go, right? I think we closed it. Well, actually, this funny part about it, we had a closing date. I think about 14 days out from the date you had the contract signed, which is pretty typical for a fund, right?
Yep.
We knew what title company to use. We used the fund's preferred title company. When you do that, things become very easy and very smooth.
Yep.
Now, a couple days before that 14 days, we saw some big storms coming in.
Yeah, we had those huge snowstorms and ice storms in Texas.
Exactly, exactly. And the funds, they always want to inspect the property the day before closing because they want to make sure one, that someone didn't go back into the property and is living in it or have a squatter situation or anything like that. And they also want to make sure that the house has been emptied of all the belongings.
Yep.
So those are two big things. They always wanted to check on that. Even if there is some belongings left over, they don't really care, right? They're gonna tear up a lot of the stuff in the house. They just want to make sure that it's not like a dumpster's worth of stuff.
Yep.
And so they just want to make sure those two things, right? That it's totally unoccupied and most of the stuff is out. Well, they couldn't do that because of the snowstorms, unfortunately. Right. And so that becomes a little scary because when you're working with a mom and pop and they see a snowstorm coming, they might decide to cancel the deal because things can happen, right? Pipes can burst
Hmm.
and now they have another couple of days to think about the deal. Maybe they're scared about the deal. But the nice thing with working with the fund was they said, hey, just give us one more week. We'll let the storm pass. And we just want to make sure that we can get to the house, and it is what it was when we decided to buy it. And I know you know this. They did that, and a week later, boom, we closed right on time.
Yeah. No, it's
Um,
nice, and this is a really cool thing of you know for us working with a hunch and a hedge fund for the first time is
mhm.
you know I would say like often sometimes the hard work is getting actually to close
Oh yeah.
with a lot of like retail buyers or your mom and pop kind of like end buyer. But
Hmm.
the hard part was like getting the terms together and like getting the contract done. But once that was done, it felt like smooth sailing, which is nice.
Yeah.
For us, it feels good, as a wholesaler and with your experience that what you bring is like, oh no, the fund is like committed to it. We're ready to go. And barring some crazy thing happening or
Hmm.
a tree falling on the house or something like
Yeah.
that, this is going to happen. And that was really cool to see in this process.
Yeah. And I'm glad I can kind of put that ease to you because sometimes it's a little scary. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just don't know what you don't know. And so when it's your first time working with these hedge funds. You always think the worst, of course, right? Nothing is ever closed until it's closed. Working
Yep.
with mom and pop buyers, retail buyers, a lot of people need appraisals to be at a certain amount, right? These
Yep.
funds are buying with cash, and so it's like, hey, if it is what it is, we're good to go. And that was the case here, right? I think the storm may have taken off like a couple extra shingles on the roof or what have you, but not a big deal. Um, they were good to go when the day came. And so the nice thing is the cash is always there for them and they perform, right?
Yeah.
And the other nice thing is working with their preferred title company. If their title company says, hey, let's extend this for a few days because of what's going on, those funds are signing off on that right away, right? They trust their title companies. So that means that we know we can trust those title companies and what they're saying. And it makes the process of selling to funds so easy, and very easy to get those terms in line. And once you know how to work with the fund, like now it's what terms to put on the contracts now, the timelines now. I mean, they don't change, right? And a lot of the funds are the same, right? They use
Yep.
the same terms and same timelines. So I think that was great. And so for your team, Um, we've been working on some deals back and forth. Obviously, some fall off the wagon, some kind of stay on the wagon. What has been maybe like the toughest thing for you?
I think, we came out of the gate real hot, which was fun. I think in our first month we sent you at least six or seven
Hmm.
opportunities, offers that we had.
Hmm.
And then funny enough, most of them were bad. And that was a learning thing for us, right? And this is a cool thing. This is why I think, speed is a good thing as you're doing something new. I
Hmm.
knew that we would, underwriting correctly or do
Sure.
something wrong or miss there's a railroad tracks behind the house or miss the
Yeah.
body of water. Like you learn some of these little nuances with these funds. But what's been great is we kind of burned through real quickly, like, oh, we underwrote incorrectly or did these things, and our first
Mhm.
six or seven were no's.
Yeah.
But then shortly after, like this one in Texas, we got a yes there. And I know now with our team and the volume, I think we've got 10 in the pipeline
Hmm.
that either the seller is kind of mulling the offer or we're waiting to hear back from the fund of what their offer would be.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think out of that 10, there's probably at least two or three good ones, if not more, that we
Oh yeah.
feel pretty confident we can get across there. And so that's been a fun experience for the team because, we've added a decent amount of volume to our existing business line.
Hmm.
Um, it's really a testament to what it looks like to have a good team. You mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
like a combination of like us and you and the hedge funds and their title company, all these things. Like once you have all this coming together, you can see a real successful path to closing, which is
Yeah.
awesome in a wholesale business.
Yeah.
And yeah, for our team, it's just been fun. I mean, I think, now that we, spent the first month or two kind of figuring out what everything needs to look like, the team's humming, they're underwriting, and, I'm excited to close some more with you.
Heck yeah, man. That's the dream, right? And so, I think you kind of hit it on the nail there. It takes, a little bit to kind of figure out what's going on here. It's a new buyer, new type of buying sequence, right? You're kind of building a slightly new system around them. And so we've been doing some good things. Some good properties are coming across the line, and and we also have been able to throw a couple more buy boxes out there to kind of make it a more well-rounded buy box, right? So now we even can look for some multifamily stuff, look for some portfolios, and as your team begins to understand how to work these deals, there's only more deals to be had, and only more things that we can work together on and all that good stuff. So, I think KPI wise, when you're trying to sell these type of deals to your maybe mom and pops, I mean, it's like 0 out of 100 are going to work.
Yep.
No, they just don't work for your retail. No, I want to say not your retail buyer, but for your mom and pop fix and flipper or your mom and pop rental buyer. They may only work for a retail buyer that's going to live in the property. Like, those are the type of things we're seeing, and those are the type of things that we're making deals on. And a lot of times, these properties are meant for a retail buyer, but they're not there yet. They need
Yep.
work, right? They need something major done, maybe a new roof, maybe the kitchen needs to be updated, right? So they aren't the best deals for retail buyers. And so we're kind of filling that gap for a lot of people, a lot of sellers that just have things sitting on market that just need some work, right? They need 20, 30, $40,000 worth of work, maybe $50,000 worth of work. The deal we did probably needs $60,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
A retail buyer just can't get a loan on it, and your mom and pop just can't buy it deep enough. And so we're sitting in that perfect little gap. And I think that's where we have a lot of opportunity, especially with the deals that your team is working on. I think they've been able to do some good things. And so, instead of the KPIs being zero properties out of viewing 100 offers or what have you, I mean, we could probably cut that in half,
Yeah. Easy.
easily, right? And so far, we're like 1 for 10 almost here.
Yeah.
And that's
No.
with some things still pending, right? That's with a few properties that still have good opportunities. So, I think we're headed down a good path here, and your team is doing great and getting a lot of opportunities. And my team is working right alongside you guys, and I think it's just going to be more deals to be had.
Yeah. I mean, I think the cool thing about this for anyone considering is like I mean, James, obviously you've had a lot of success, mostly focused in the niche of hedge funds. And that's
Hmm.
amazing. You can be just as successful at doing that. And then for anyone else, it is a wonderful complement to the things you already do.
Yeah.
So, what I'll say is we've added, this kind of buyer as a tool in our offer. And I know for a fact that we've also had other opportunities come out where the hedge fund offer doesn't make sense, but they are willing to do something, say, creative, like a seller
Yeah.
finance offer, or they are willing to do something else where maybe the cash offer doesn't work. And it's been really powerful for the team and anyone to look at this is you have a really strong cash offer,
Hmm.
stronger than most of the time you can generally offer.
Yeah.
But even if that strong cash offer doesn't work, it opens up many other kind of conversations for your
Yeah.
team as you look to wholesale. And so it's been a wonderful addition to the and complements what our team can offer.
Yeah.
And it just gives us more ways to get more deals. I love it.
Nice, nice. Well, that's awesome. It's been great working with you and the team. I think your experience in the wholesale world, adding this little piece to your companies, like you said, it's gonna be a great fit, kind of fits the gap, right?
Yep.
Um, and a lot of times, when we're giving cash offers that we have to give in order for these deals to work for your smaller fix and flip or what have you, it kind of turns these sellers off,
Oh
right?
yeah, I mean they're kind of offensive to be honest.
Yeah,
I get
right?
it.
You
Like
have
I
to be.
get
It is
it.
what it
Yeah.
is.
It's just that the numbers don't lie, unfortunately. Yeah.
So yeah, when you're able to give a slightly better cash offer, or even sometimes a much better cash offer, it might not work like you're saying, but the seller's like, okay, well they're working with me now,
Yeah.
right? And so these guys are legit. Um, okay, well, hey, that might not work for you. Hey, how about this type of creative finance deal, or how about this type of deal that can work then? And now the seller has a couple of great options to pick from.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so I think that's a great point that you made. And moving forward, I know that we'll have some more opportunities here and be able to turn over some great things and keep building alongside each other. I think that would be great.
I love it. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, it's been a great convo. Obviously, I know, your team is out there doing their thing. A lot of people, like to drop your name in the wholesale world and everyone knows what you guys are doing. Everything you're doing is great. So, have them bring you some more deals and let's work them and all that good stuff.
Sounds good. And yeah, and for anyone, James is the guy in this hedge fund space. It's great to work with him. And if you're ever considering getting into it, reach out to him as well. He's a wealth of knowledge and can
Yeah.
really either help you kickstart your business or turbocharge your business, depending on what you're trying to do.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that, man. And looking forward to talking with you guys and your team more and let's get them done.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Awesome, brother.